안녕하세요. Here we go. ITZY. None of my business. I've been looking forward to this. I've been very hyped for ITZY since they had their first pre-release track with Bet on Me. That was really quite interesting. And since then, I've actually, in the past week or two, I've gone back and listened to a lot of the ITZY music that I've heard. The Tala Tala. Well, I've heard that a lot because of the shows, right? The A2K and also the ITZY project, part 1 of season 1. But I've also, songs like Wannabe and Icy and, all those previous ITZY hits, hitsies. But they're really good. Like, the more I listen to them and over time, right, I keep going back, and every time I go back, like it gets better and better. I enjoy it even more than I did before, and it's quite interesting. But it might be a little bit, the hype, but I don't think so. Objectively speaking, like, I'm going back and listen to some of these songs, and I think, oh man, like this is a really good chorus part. This first part, this is really good. I forgot how good this is. You know what I mean? And I just enjoy it more and more. Like every time I go back and listen to it. So I've been waiting for this. Ryujin and Chaeryeong were also getting very like they had much anticipation for the release of it, and so I was like, yeah, well, I definitely have to check it out. I only know that because of what they were posting on Bubble Live, but let's see.
It's none of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 똑같은 매일 반복된 얘기 어긋나버린 me and you.
완전히 달라진 넌 tragic. 너만 보면 자꾸 현기증이 나. 미쳐버린 이 여름도 crazy. 열대야보다 더 짜증나는 우리.
거시도치 말투 비뚤어져 like you. Yeah, 멈출 수 없는 우리 사이. 선 넘지 마, I don't care how you feel. You 생은 너와 나 우리 그리고들 다가온 이별 같아 어느 때보다 싫은 여름. It's none of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 똑같은 매일 반복된 얘기 어긋나버린 me and you. None of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 고장난 매일 뒤틀린 얘기 이미 멀어진 me and you.
쿨하기는커녕 지는 이 습도 속 익숙했던 손길마저 실증나는 기분. 흐르는 땀방울처럼 온몸이 끈적거리고 머리는 지끈거리고 짜증만 낼 뿐이야.
경계조차 모호해진 day and night.
그럴수록 멀어지는 you and I. 고장나버린 줄 사이 we know it 찌득한 채 오늘 너무 후끈한 밤 공기마저 모든 게 어지러워.
생은 너와 나 우리 그리고도 다가온 이별 같아 어느 때보다 싫은 여름. It's none of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 똑같은 매일 반복된 얘기 어긋나버린 me and you. None of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 고장난 매일 뒤틀린 얘기 이미 멀어진 me and you. 나나나나나나나나나나나 None of my business. 나나나나나나나나나나나 Don't care what you do.
더 이상 할 바 아니 I don't care to know what you want. 우리들 사이를 되돌리려 애쓰지 마. I'm not okay 이럴수록 지칠 뿐이고 I don't care 벗어나고 싶은 이 여름.
시리지 나도 똑같은데 알잖아 더 이상 내게 뭘 더 바래. Baby don't mess me, mess me. You don't have to mess me. 우릴 내려놔 이젠 하품 같은 destiny. It's none of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 똑같은 매일 반복된 얘기 어긋나버린 me and you. None of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 고장난 매일 뒤틀린 얘기 이미 멀어진 me and you. 나나나나나나나나나나 None of my business.
Oh man, it's very cool to see ITZY sort of move into this, this. It feels like a new era, like a new phase, right? They've been kind of working this way, like towards this direction. I would say since the last album, right? Since the like Cheshire. Um, as I was speaking about those earlier ITZY tracks, and there's like the energy in those tracks. It's like there's a lot of power, right? Like there's in the mix itself, in the vocals. The way everything's written is like it's very driving, like all of those songs. And what I noticed when the Cheshire dropped, right, and that when that single dropped in the music video, it was like, wow, it's such a it has a great energy to it. Still feel very young, very like it, but a little less edge, right? Like it was there, but it was real sort of slick, like it was real sly, like they weren't trying to be like really sort of direct with it. And it was a great concept, right? But I noticed that there was so much more continuity to the track, and it wasn't writing hard contrast between sections, really. It was trying to sort of create this overall big picture type of idea of the song. And listening to Cheshire, listening to Boys Like You, which is very similar. Boys Like You is written more like a Western sort of type of pop song. But then, Bet On Me came out, and it's got this wonderful feel, this great continuity to it from start to finish. It's so balanced, and the sounds are all support each other throughout the entire length of the song. And it was very, very cool, right? Like it was just like and what my takeaway was like, well, it's just kind of growing up now, like, you know what I mean? It's a little bit more mature, it's a little bit more sophisticated, it's a little bit more grown up. Like and it's a little bit more, I guess you could say, well, no, it's just being honest, right? It's just an honest expression of themselves, which is what they always did. But as they mature, as they grow older, right, the what that is actually kind of changes a little bit, so it makes sense. This is also, it's following that same sort of trajectory, right? It's a wonderfully balanced song. It's so laid back. It really is like, these tracks are just, they're cool. They're not trying to be like super powerful. There might be something on the album that does actually bring that sort of ITZY like kick back. You know what I mean? Like the punch, the drive. But these songs are very expressive in how they sort of maintain the idea throughout the entire song. I thought the vocals are like really incredible. It's they're not sort of ramping up the dynamics and like belting out these really like strong parts or lines. It feels so comfortable, right? And this was also on Bet On Me. This was very, very evident in the song and the style, in their delivery of like all their vocals. It's so comfortable for them. Like they're hanging out in ranges and dynamic levels that they're totally in control of it, for sure. But they were great from the start. Like that very first lines. Leah comes in, and she sounds fantastic. And Ryujin is such an ace. Like she has a certain tone and a certain delivery in her first singing part And then she does quite good rhythmic work on some of the more rap style deliveries. And then there's that great bridge part as well. But she comes back with another sung vocal part, and she has kind of shifted her tone a little bit on it. It's like she's using about 3 different voicings, right, across this track in a way that it's like there's another member almost, right? It's actually really good. Like, it's really good. Yeji sounds terrific too. She's got excellent rhythm also, and the second verse, I believe, that it's a little bit more leaning towards the rhythmic side as far as the way those lines are written, more in that rap style, so a little bit less emphasis on the melody of it, that the sort of singing, it's not pitch centered. It's a little bit more emphasis on how those measures and beats are all arranged, but they did really well on it, and it's just cool. It's a really cool track. They got the choreo back. That was one of the things, like, in Bet on Me, and there probably is choreo for that. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, but it's not featured in the video. But for this one, they have their full-on choreography sequence, and it's one of the best parts with ITZY, right? Is their dance. It's just that they're really good at the choreography, man. They have some really awesome, like, for all their songs, if you watch the videos, you watch what they do, it's really good stuff, man. It's really good. Like, it's not really light choreography work. It's all quite developed. But this song has such a nice, cool, laid back type of a feel to it, and it's an interesting way to approach the concept too. The song is about something that is probably a little bit higher, and it's like a more tense type of idea that's being described here. Like, there's describing some anxiety, right? But there's really actually a lot of resolve in what you're getting as far as the sound of this song. A little bit of static, like from a record. A lot of compression here. The guitar work is it's sort of a light funk kind of a guitar sound, right? So like a little bit more of the percussive element of the sound that's being produced, and you can actually feel it as if it were like the percussion part of the mix, right? Because this is really accenting your second and fourth beats. It's 8th notes, right? It's 1 and 2 and 3, right? But you hear that the peaks, every time it hits the highest note in the arpeggio, that's on your 2 and on your 4. And it's a really awesome. It's simple and it's straightforward, but it has such a warm sound to it, and it's that light funk style, sort of being a little bit more percussive, really establishes like the main count or the main sort of rhythm for the song early on.
It's none of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 똑같은 매일 반복된 얘기 어긋나버린 me and you.
완전히 달라진 넌 tragic 너만 보면 자꾸 현기증이 나 미쳐버린 이 여름도 crazy 열대야보다 더 짜증나는 우리.
So like the rhythms are interesting. Like, it's both the combination of like 8th notes and 16th notes, right? Like, it's a da 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 da, and you can count the ands 1 and 2 and 3, but it's like 1 and 2, and so you get a little bit like a 16th note in there, right at the beginning of a measure, and it's an interesting rhythm, and it's kind of mimicking what the guitar part is doing as well. So a little bit of a nod again to like the percussive rhythm, which is interesting because it's quite a long duration without an actual percussive element in the mix. but the feel is there. Like you already know where it is, and it's really nice. Leah's, she sounded so great, man. Like they both sound so awesome. And let me see.
얘기가 끝나버린 me and you
완전히 달라진 넌 tragic 너만 보면 자꾸 현기증이 나 미쳐버린 이 여름도 crazy 열대야보다 더 짜증나는 우리.
So Leah's, got more of her upper end register there. It's like she's very sweet, right? When she sings, she makes a very sweet sound. And Ryujin is hanging out more mid to low range, right? So there's a nice subtle contrast between the deliveries are so gentle, like these aren't like belted out lines. It's relaxed. It's very but it's very breathy. It's very airy also. And that has to come from down here, and so it's a subtle contrast in between their parts. But later on, I could swear, I'm listening to it a little bit carefully, but later on I can swear when Ryujin has another singing part, she moves into that upper half of the register range. It's actually is a very nice demonstration of control of that.
거시도치 말투 삐뚤어져 like you yeah 멈출 수 없는 우리 사이 선 넘지 마 I don't care how you feel you
Crazy syncopation on Yuna's part. Like she's totally like she kind of left that rhythmic pattern, right? That arpeggio pattern that the previous vocal parts were following, and got all over the space with these different sort of rhythmic patterns. It was in a much longer sort of phrase, right? All sort of connected together, and it's really interesting.
None of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 똑같은 매일 반복된 얘기 어긋나버린 me and you. None of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 고장난 매일 뒤틀린 얘기 이미 멀어진 me and you.
They're quite versatile. Like this is one of the things about ITZY. Chaeryeong's sung part, right? She has a beautiful upper range register. It's so good, man. It's like, cause it's rich, but it's never like oversaturated. Like it's always such a comfortable sort of pitch, right, that she can reach. It's never overdone. Like never, even when she has like really dynamically strong high note parts and everything, it's never like overcooked. It's always just like perfect, right? Yeji's, when she comes in with the hook, right, when she comes in with the chorus part, it's got such great body, right? It's a rather quick rhythm on that too, but she manages to have so much resonance, even though it's rather a broken up, almost staccato type of line, right? But you can really hear like all this body in her voice when she does it. It's really well done. Like they're so good, man. They're so good. But it's also, you have to, it's like, this isn't a crazy up-tempo song, but the rhythms are actually kind of complex. So a lot of this stuff is ticking by very quickly. So once you take the time to really listen in on it, like, you pick up on some of these more subtle aspects of it. But this is what makes it good. They're very good, man. They're very good. See, she's still hanging out on that mid to low end of her register, but there was much more of a flow, right? Like it was rhythm, right? She was doing more of a rap style delivery for that one. It's a little bit sung in the beginning, but then once it starts, ticking, right? It's all into a flow. And
체온을 넘어 후끈한 밤 공기마저 모든 게 어지러워.
Like she's got such a great body in the sound that she's producing, right? And again, it's not like she's singing long sustained note durations, so to have that much, it's almost very percussive. It's almost like the pocket of a kick drum or something, right? Like she creates this nice little like ball of sound around each of these notes that she's singing, and it is got so much depth to it. Like it's impressive, man. It's really impressive.
It's none of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 똑같은 매일 반복된 얘기 어긋나버린 me and you. None of my business, none of my business, none of my business what you do. 고장난 매일 들린 얘기 이미 멀어진 me and
So the mix, right? It's very full, and once you get to the chorus, you get that hat sound that's going off. That's on your 16th note count. It sounds like for the most part, everything else is kind of playing. Let's see. There's a lot of whole notes, right? I want to say it's a piano that's kind of creating the main part of like the rhythm section. You can still hear the guitar with this kind of more of a strumming type of rhythm going on. But you can catch like some of the upbeats in there where you hear bump, 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 and it's not that piano sound. So there's a bass for sure, but I'm not sure if it's like I don't think it's like a bass guitar. I think that's a voicing within like the keyboard part. And that seems to be carrying a lot of whole note durations. With the occasional like 8th note or 16th note come, but it'll be like 1 2 3 and 1 2 3 4 and 1 2 3. Like it's not busy in the middle of a measure. It just will do a little step to get to the next to the next bar. But it's a very clean mix. Again, it's super clean. And the vocals, right? Once the harmonizations start in, and it's not like, it's one of those types of songs where there are a bunch of independent vocal lines that are going on, and it's, one voice is singing a certain line and another voice is singing a certain line, and within there, that's where you'll find your harmonization sort of distributed across these different parts, and for as busy as it is, it manages to maintain this very smooth, very warm and laid back type of feeling to it, right?
더 이상 할 바 아니 I don't care to know what you want. 우리들 사이를 되돌리려 애쓰지 마. I'm not okay. 이럴수록 지칠 뿐이고 I don't care. 벗어나고 싶은 이 여름.
So see, that was tonally, that was different. It wasn't just that she was like doing a rap part there. She shaped the sound differently. That didn't sound like the earlier lines. She had a kind of a cool, kind of smoky thing going on earlier, right? This was slightly higher, just ever so slightly higher, right? In other words, she didn't drop down as low in pitch as she had prior. And then the type of like rhythm that she has going on there, the count that she has going on, it feels different. It's like a totally different color as far as the tone, right? It's really cool, man. It's really awesome. They are rapping. ramped up compression, and it lifts there right at the end. It's really good, man. It's really, I love this new, sort of approach that they have to these songs. It just they've have very consciously shifted from some of their earlier stylings, which are great. I'm not saying that I didn't like that. I very much enjoy the earlier stuff, but this new style, this new sound of their tracks is so cool, man. Like it's cool. They like I had mentioned about the Bet on Me track. They're kind of tapping into that, there's a little bit of a nostalgic kind of hue to these songs. You know what I mean? It's a little bit reflective, but at the same time, it's also very contemporary, very modern, very fresh, and the continuity across the track is just, man, it makes it enjoyable. You know what I mean? It's just it's so good to just listen to this whole song all the way through. It's effortless, right? It just it was the same thing with Bet on Me. It's from the beginning all the way through it. It's just oh, it feels so good to listen to this. I really enjoy just hearing this, right? But it's quite interesting. It's quite, everybody sounds fantastic. I mean, they sound so good, man, in this type of delivery, right? Where there aren't these big dynamic ramp ups, right? There aren't these big, huge lines of but it's great, right? They could do this also. This different type of delivery is they can handle it just fine. They get the most out of it. They're able to do that. In other words, they're able to use their vocals to really catch this type of expression, right? The feeling, the idea behind this type of expression, and they have absolutely sort of mastered it. You know what I mean? They know exactly what it is that they're doing. Ryujin's, a vocal, her ability to change up the tone, and to go from the sort of singing style to the rapping style. But we you see Yeji do it, you see Leah do it, right? Yuna, she's got crazy rhythms going on in her part, man. And it's cool. It's cool, man. It's really cool. I really enjoy the mix too. It's got fantastic instrumentation sounds in it. These different voicings. The guitar part is so good, man. It's simple. It's not no one aspect of the song, of the mix, is overly complex or elaborate, right? But it's the way all of it is put together and to create this very, cool sort of laid back type of a groove, and it immediately, the layering works in this awesome way. It's a fantastic chorus, but I think the hook is really good. It's relatively simple, right? But the way that it's done is just incredibly catchy. It's fun, and it's also it's a little bit more sophisticated. It's a little bit more grown up, right? But it's still fun, though. It's still fun. They're moving into this, this new sort of style, this new era, and I think it is being done in the best possible way. It's it's really good. So they've taken the time to really work out what it is that they want to do, and it's paying off. I'd say it's paying off. You know what I mean? I had seen something about how they were kind of waiting to do a comeback because they kind of couldn't really find the right type of song. That they were kind of searching perhaps a little bit still trying to work out what it is that they want to do, but what they've accomplished, where they've taken this, where they've gone with it, it's actually really cool. It's interesting to catch a group, you know, as they make this sort of evolution, as they kind of go growing up from like their earlier sound into what it is that they are kind of aspiring to now, in contrast to that. But it's really good. It's really good. I think, and like I said, the vocals are so they're so awesome and so good because it's very comfortable. Like you know, and they don't just sort of like lean on that, right? Like it's interesting when the emphasis becomes rhythm, or the way Ryujin kind of changes up her tone in between parts, and you know that still takes a great degree of control. That still takes a great degree of the sense of rhythm, and all of that is definitely there. I mean, listen to their early stuff, and it's no wonder, right? Because they had the earlier tracks can be quite elaborate too. Some of that's down to the mix and to the production, but I mean, still overall, they're quite these complex type of song structures. And so at this point, you know, they totally have the versatility, the sort of agility to move, you know, through these different deliveries and make these subtle changes to their parts and keep everything fun and interesting throughout the track. And it's good, man. It's good. It's a treat. It's like, it's very cool. It's a very cool direction. Let me see. It's only a few days left, but like a week before the album drops, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm gonna have to check it out. There's, you know what I mean? Like there's no way. I think oh, that'll probably be the first like ITZY sort of album review, right? The first like real ITZY album. I've done plenty of songs, but not like an actual whole EP or something like that. So this will be fun. None of my business, man. I was wondering like what was it gonna be, because I heard the title, you know, None of My Business, and I'm like, oh man, because it alludes to something that could potentially be, you know, like one of those earlier sort of ITZY tracks, right? But they keep throwing me for a loop. You know what I mean? Because Bet on Me was like, I was not expecting it at all. You know what I mean? Like what I was like, oh my goodness, this is interesting. Like this is a new space, right? Okay. And so this also, you know, was like was not anticipating this, not based off of, you know, what I'm familiar with from ITZY, right? It was not the idea that I thought it would be, but then again, I've learned not to really do that, and not to really like anticipate anything in particular, because it's not going to be that, and whatever it is, it's probably going to be way better than that, like, you know, most of the time, right? But it's very cool. I'm excited for the album. I can't wait for the album to come out. I'm definitely going to check that out here for sure. ITZY, None of My Business. This is a cool track, man. This is cool. I dig Grown Up ITZY a lot. This is like, it's very cool. This is some proper good stuff, man. They're really moving into this space that is quite comfortable for them, but doesn't limit their capabilities in any way. Like they're I'm sure they have like a lot of stuff still, you know, to sort of pull out. It'll be fun. It's gonna be a fun album. It really is. It's gonna be really enjoyable.